Good evening, dear friends. I spoke of the Lord's Prayer, and first of all, I just want to say that that formula is inexhaustible. There's no way that any one person or any one school of thought can exhaust the significance of that formula. So whatever I have to say about it, don't take it that seriously, because there's way much more to be understood, to be realized by means of that formula. We can only scratch the surface and just sniff at it. For instance, take this aspect. Our Father, patriarchy, paternality as opposed to maternality, the light that penetrates the darkness, that shines into the darkness, and which the darkness can't grasp. That light, which is the same as the semen coming into the womb and fertilizing the egg. You know that in a woman, all the cells, the egg cells, are already present when she's born. Whereas the semen, the cells of the semen, are continually dying and reborn in a man. So when a man changes mentally, morally, his semen will also change. When a woman changes mentally or morally, it has no bearing on her eggs. They're the same. So epigenetically, it makes a lot of sense for a man to really work on his moral and cognitive progress, to be a wiser and better person. For a woman to do that, it's very important for her children as they grow with her, as she grows with them. But it's not really going to make an epigenetic difference in her offspring. So being a man implies a special responsibility to really work on yourself. It has to do with how we can make every generation become just a little more fit for human life. So that's the thing with fatherliness. Our Father who art in the heavens. But we already went through the formula with the 7 petitions. I would like now to show a glimpse of how these petitions are connected to one another. I mentioned that the 3 major stations, the 3 major petitions, if you will, are first, the first one, the one that connects us to the above and beyond, and then the central one, the one that connects us to our fellow human beings, and then lastly, the third one, or the last one, the 7th one, the one that connects us to the worlds of nature, of the 4 elements, or if you will, the 3 natural kingdoms. The 4th kingdom is the human kingdom, and the heart is connecting us to that one. But let's look now at the correspondence between the 1st petition and the 7th petition, because there is such one, and the 6th in connection to the 2nd in connection to the 6th, the 3rd in connection to the 5th, and the 4th being all sovereign and connected to itself to give us this day our daily bread. Some of you may recognize that candle holder, that Jewish candle holder that you can see on some of my tapes up in the corner. I have another one here because it easily will demonstrate for us what I'm saying. Our Father who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in the heavens. These 3. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil. Okay? That's the 7 petitions. And look, they're connected exactly this way. This fourth one connects the first one to the seventh one, the second one to the sixth one, the third one to the fifth one. In this way. Hallowed be thy name. Deliver us from evil. If we focus on the name of the architect of the universe, so to speak, of the master planner, creator of this whole universe, and of how the ideal is to be realized in the real. We focus on that. We don't have to keep killing off just because we know how to kill. We don't have to kill unless it's really called for. We can just have that potential, being guardians of life and death, without ever having to kill. But if we need to kill, we can. And if we can keep on killing, we can abstain from that, because that's evil. So, but in order to do that, we need to keep focusing on the name, not our name, not our business, because we get confused about our business if we don't have any way of being in touch with the business of the universe. So, hallowed be thy name, deliver us from the evil. Thy kingdom come, lead us not into temptation. Thy kingdom means the Creator's, God's order of things, which is not necessarily manifest here on earth. But we manifest divine order by means of procreation, by means of giving birth to and raising children. That's how things progress. We have all kinds of other creativity as well that help manifest a higher order or just our own whims. But if we focus on not my kingdom, not my whims, but the whims of God, so to speak, the whims, or rather the structure and order of the idea of creation. When we focus on that one as being here in a procreative area, creative and procreative, then we will not have children with just anyone. Then we will not create just anything. We will not invent just anything. This whole libido sphere of life will have a moral compass. And third one being, thy will be done. In other words, my will is to be aligned with the greater will. Now that has a correspondence to our ability to forgive and to not overstep our boundaries, or withholding our contributions, our proper moral contributions to a greater whole. Now, that sense of what's appropriate, of appropriateness, has to do with not my focusing on my will, but my focusing on the greater will. So that's pretty obvious connection as well. But they're not really becoming activated. These three will not activate these three unless the fourth one really is activated. And that is our daily bread. That's why I feel it's so important to realize that bread isn't just loaves of bread. Bread isn't just physical nourishment. The true, the beautiful, and the good, that is our daily bread. That's the fourth mystery of how we on earth, whatever we have our hearts in, whichever human encounter, whichever encounter with something physical, or with how we structure time, or the moods that we create, when we work, when we play, when we rest, whatever we pour in from our hearts into those spaces, the physical, the temporal, and the atmosphere in which we live and work, we can make accessible our daily bread, whatever there is of goodness, of beauty, and of truth in that physical space, in that temporal space, and in that psychological space, so to speak, the atmosphere, the mood. Those three, the physical, that is physical space, this chair I'm sitting on, the food I'm eating, or the food I'm giving someone to eat, that's the physical. And then we have the temporal. There's the qualities of time. In music and poetry, that's really clear. And also like in theater and movies, that's really clear too. How we work with time, how we condense time, or how we stretch time, how we pause and reflect or give space for reflection. Like I did now. Sometimes we intensify it so it becomes really dense and tight and quick. And sometimes we prolong it so that it deepens. You know, how we work with time in our human interactions with each other, with our superiors, with the ones that depend on us. That is how we can put our hearts into the sphere of time, of temporality. And then, thirdly, what I call the psychic space, the space of the soul, moods, atmospheres that we create by all kinds of means, by the color of the food that we serve, or by our gratitude when we are served, by giving compliments, by being able to receive compliments without being all huffy about it, or stealing attention in some way or another, allowing graciousness to flow between human beings in simple interactions, in difficult interactions, in all kinds of interactions. That is how we ensoul the psychic space, by how we were able to put our hearts into it. Now that heartfulness, that hearty heartfulness, is how the upper three can become active in the lower three. So the daily bread, how the heart can exist in a physical, the temporal, and psychic environment of the human, of us. That is the key, really. That's why it's so important for a person that works with such a potent formula as the Lord's Prayer to try to remain heart-centered. Not to be too impatient or too much of a know-it-all, but however much such a person can manifest or understand, it's nothing. Like St. Paul says, it's all a bunch of noise unless you're centered in your heart. Because when you're centered in your heart, you make the world around you nourishing. You make it edible, physically or psychically edible. It gives nourishment not only to you, but to the people that depend on you, or maybe also to the people that you depend on. So, you don't have to deny hierarchy. There are people that you depend on, your boss and so forth, your customers, whatever. There are people that you depend on, and if you have children, if you have a partner, there are people that depend on you. So we're not just equal. We're also above and below one another. But that's not a problem. It's an asset. Because especially when you're above or below someone, the moral dimension really kicks in. And you have a special opportunity to infuse that space with the purity of your heart, with your love of truth, with your love of beauty, with your love of goodness, which in turn is what makes those three upper petitions able to kick in and transform and activate the three lower ones, so that we really make what is above become also in the below.